Hi there, it's Natasha, and thank you so much for joining me today. This is the die that kind of started off today's project, and it is just a gorgeous kind of floral die with some foliage and things. And I do love a good inlay card. So I was looking at this one and thought this would be perfect for my project today. So this one is from Alina Crafts, and it's from her new release that was out for January. So I am, as always, going to start off with a 110-pound Nina Solar White card base, and then I have a 4¼ by 5½ inch panel of this grey cardstock. It is cut down just a slither on all sides, so it creates that tiny white border that you saw. Then I'm going to just temporarily tack down my die onto my grey cardstock. Then I have flipped it over, so this is the back of it, and before I even take the die out, I have adhered down some masking tape, which is just a low-tack tape. Any low-tack tape that you have will work, and I'm going to carefully, because it is so kind of twisty and curly, pull off the card front away from the die cut design, and I want all of the pieces inside, including the actual die cut, to stay down on that piece of masking paper. So now I'm going to run it through my die cutting machine again, except for I'm going to change the die direction and it's going to go down the bottom this time. So just going to tack it down lightly, run it through my cuddle bug, and then again flip it over to the back, take it off, put a piece of masking tape over top again, and do the same process as I did the first time. You do want to be a little bit careful in this part to make sure that you are keeping all of those little pieces intact. And that will make your life so much easier when it comes to putting them back in when we do our die cut inlay. Now, as for the paper that I want to use for in the die cut, I have fallen in love with the Satin Metallics from Alina Crafts. I have a fair few of them. So this is I think these are called Winning Metallics. They're all satin, so they're not mirror, but they are, it's really, really hard to kind of really show you what they're like on camera. It kind of comes across shiny and not that nice, but they are so beautiful. So this is from the Midnight Sky set, which is the blue set. And then next up is the Forever Greens, and that is obviously greens, but it does have some kind of blue shades in there as well. They're kind of more like teal, I guess. I will put the links to all of these down in the description box below. I was having the hardest time choosing which color I wanted to do for the inlay. Even all of these citrus colors were gorgeous. I just really couldn't decide, and this satin is most definitely, I prefer this over the mirror cardstock, but it is just so hard to capture on film what this is really like. It didn't really matter if I had my filming lights on or off. Yeah, it was just really hard. Anyway, I decided to go with kind of this kind of almost rose goldy pinky kind of color from the citrus one, and I die cut those out of the same die. Now I have some double-sided adhesive. This one happens to be the Scrapbook.com one, and it is cut down to about 4 by 5¼ just slightly smaller than my card base. And I've just left a little bit exposed up the top there, and that is so I could line up my card front really well and line up the die cut inlays, and they would all kind of be down in the right place before I committed to the whole sheet. So that works really well for me. So I'm just inlaying in both of those little pink satin sheets. And these, I mean, again, it's so hard to pick up on in real life how beautiful that pink satin is. So anyway, I have carefully lifted off one of those die cuts from the masking paper, and I have just set it over top of my design on my card front, and I'm using my pokey tool to poke those pieces through into the adhesive that is exposed beneath it. And this is just one way. There are several ways to adhere down all these little inlay bits, so I'm going to try and show you a couple of them. So this is definitely one way, and I do find it quite easy. If all your bits are super ready to pop out, you can just gently press on them without making marks in them, and they will pop down into their correct spaces. So that way is nice and easy. Another way to do it is if you have like a QuickStik tool or a wax pencil or anything like that, and you can try and remove the outside layer there. I've got enough that I can kind of go ahead and show you, and you just pick up the little pieces off that sticky paper and pop them in their right place. So whichever one is easiest for you. And usually for me it comes down to, if they stay in the original die cut, I will put it over top and get them with the pokey tool. But if they all come out or anything, I will use the little QuickStik tool from, this one is from We Are Memory Keepers, but there are several out there. So yeah, so either, whatever works for you. I'm going to finish off this last little bit with the bits that did stay in, and that is my beautiful finished panel. And it is all completely one layer. So I kind of just run my finger over it to make sure it is all in there really nicely. And I really like how this is looking so far. I do want to keep this card nice and kind of clean and simple, because I feel like that would show off the die cut inlay the best. But I also have this Love You die. This is also one from Elena, and it does come all together there. You can see it's kind of like one big die cut. So I went ahead and die cut it with some plain white Nina cardstock, and I cut it out about 4 times, I think. But I want both of the words, but I want them separately. So I'm going to just cut that little one bit that joins them, cut the Y so it looks like it was meant to be that way always, and cut the L, just the little joiny bit there as well. Then I'm going to stack them up, and I'm going to stack up 4 of the loves and 4 of the U's. And that just helps them stand out a tiny bit more, as always, with a nice sentiment straight in the middle. I'm using just plain white cardstock, and that is going to stand out from the grey background. So I don't have too many problems there. It's not white on white. But I do still find that stacking them up creates a nice bold sentiment in the middle. But again, completely optional. And I'm using my Ranger Multi-Medium in the matte finish. That's what's in that glue bottle. But I do get these glue bottles from AliExpress, and I recently did a video on how to refill these. I've had lots of questions about it still. I hope I answered some of them in that video. And this is just what's left of the kind of pink satin sheet that I used for my inlay die cuts. And I'm going to cut down a piece for my background. Now I'm cutting it down to be just shy of 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. However, I want to save as much of this as I can, so I'm going to do the little trick that I do when I hate giving up my papers, and that is cutting out the inside of this rectangle. Again, this part is completely optional, but it does mean that later on I have a little spare piece of this satin cardstock that I can use for something else, and no one will ever see or know, apart from if you watch this video, that I did this, because you won't be able to see it in the finished card at all. So I just put 4 cuts in it with my trimmer, and because my aim is not very good, I'll finish it off with my scissors. Again, doesn't have to be perfectly neat. Now it's just a matter of putting the card together. So I have my satin cardstock, which I'm going to add a little bit of glue to that outside little frame, and I'm going to adhere this down to my card base, which is the 110 pound Nina Solar White. Make sure it's all lined up so it's got a tiny little white border there, and I want it to be even on all sides. Then, because I put the adhesive down on the back of my die cut inlay part, it means I can just pull off the release paper and adhere down that whole front panel. Then I need to put on my sentiment, and as I said, there was a reason that I wanted it to come apart, and that was so that it fitted nicely in that kind of circular shape that I've created with my die cut inlay. So I'm just adding a little bit more liquid glue onto the back of the sentiments and adding them straight down onto the front of the card, remembering that they're already kind of nice and bold because we layered up all of those layers of cardstock. So you can see that the love and the U fit perfectly in there, and then the very last thing I'm going to do is add some raspberry pink and gloss white crystal drops from Nuvo, and these just finish off the card nicely. I'm just going to put a few here and there, kind of on the bottom right and top left where the empty spaces are left from the inlay. And that will pretty much finish off my card for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this card, and give the die cut inlay a go. It looks beautiful, and it creates a really nice one layer card if you don't add anything too dimensional, which always helps if you're going to mail it anywhere. Anyway, thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks, bye!